remember these if you watch the podcast. This is a giant Afterthought everything sock. So what I did is I cast on 64 stitches and I did a 2x2 rib, and I just knit and knit and knit and knit and knit, and then I did a 2x2 rib and then cast it off. So this is ready for me to separate and put in the toes and then put in the heels. This was a great way to use as much yarn as possible. This is an opal yarn, so it's got its own built-in striping, which is a lot of fun. So doing it this way, there are two things that I would like to take note of, is that the socks are going to be fraternal twins. They are opposite because the pattern runs down this way. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you want your socks to match, then this is not the way to do it. And this would be a great way to do it if you had a yarn that was just one color. The other thing to note is that the cast on edge looks very different from the cast off edge. The cast off edge is quite a bit looser, and I cast off in pattern, so it's the knit 2 and then purl 2. So it just has a bit of a different look on that side, which is fine because these are long enough you won't be able to see them. They'll be under my pant leg, so I'm not fussed about that. I still have ends to weave in, but this was a great way to use an entire skein. So I have to pick a skein of yarn that's going to be for my heels and toes. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to eyeball it, and what I'm going to do is separate each sock from the other, and then I'm going to put the toes in. So I'm going to show you today how I go ahead and do that. So I have some Knitter's Pride today needles, and they're 2.0 millimeter because that's what I use to knit. And these are the needles that I'm going to be using to pick up my stitches. So there they are. So when I'm picking up my stitches, what I'm going to do is, and you can count stitches if that's what you fancy. I am not going to count stitches in this. I am just eyeballing it. So I've lined up the one end, and then I'm going to pick up the stitches. So what you're going to notice on these stitches is there are V's. So some look like trees and some look like V's. So what you're going to do is you'll know how many stitches that you cast on. So I cast on 64, so I need 32 stitches on each needle for each sock. So I'm going to be putting in 4 needles, 2 on this side and 2 on that side, and then I'm going to be cutting the row in between the stitches, which is some people get nervous about, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick up the right leg. See this V right here? So I'm going to pick up that right leg on that one, and then just follow that row down. Follow, follow, follow. Picking up the right leg in that row the whole way down. Keep going. That's the one. And you want to make sure that you're lining it up in the right row so that you're not grabbing stitches from the row above or the row below. Okay, so I'm just going to count these and see if I have the right amount of stitches on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. That is not the right amount of stitches. So I need 2 more stitches. 31. And let's grab the other one from the other side, I think. Let's see. Yeah. 31 and 32. So that's the first set, and so that is for this sock here. Now we have to pick up the toe stitches for this sock here. So we're going to turn this so it's facing the other direction. And again, you're picking up the right leg of the V, so it's going to be an opposite stitch that you'll be picking up here. And it is going to be on, there's a row in between, and then you're going to pick up on that row below that row in between, because this is the row that we are going to cut. So grab this and start picking up. So that's the row underneath. So that is the one, that is one away, and then picking up the right leg all the way across. Oopsie. And this is the same process for when you're adding a completely afterthought heel. When you put in the scrap yarn for just a afterthought heel, that becomes the row that's in between the stitches. But this is a true afterthought, so you have to leave that one row in between, because that's the one you're going to cut and pick out. So picking up those stitches. Sorry if you hear barking, that's my dog. He's a bit of a ruckus. Now I'm going to count those stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So 32 stitches. So we're going to do that on the other side as well. Just continuing on in that same row right there, and leaving a row in between. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and then I will show you how to cut it. What we're going to do here is we're going to take these beautiful scissors. So what can happen sometimes is when you're putting the needles in, sometimes they catch the yarn underneath, and you can fix that as you're knitting. So I did catch it a couple times under here, which is fine, because I'm just going to open this up and then I will fix that. I might grab some smaller needles. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of the stitches in here. with my knitting needle, and that's the stitch that I'm going to start with clipping. There it goes. And then you just pick out those stitches in between. It's a little bit fiddly at first, but then once you get going, it'll just go. I just tend to trim off the excess yarn too as I'm going, just because it's easier to just pull a little bit of yarn through than to pull a big piece. But you want to make sure that by that time you're done pulling it apart, that you do have enough of an end to weave it in. And if that's not the case, then you can move your stitches, move your needles down one more row, and then just pull out the previous row, and then you'll have enough of an end to weave in. And doing the toes first is really a good idea, because then you can measure out where the heel needs to go exactly. Almost there. And as you take the last stitch out, make sure that everything else is still on the needle. So there we have two ends, and now we have two socks ready for toes.